Mammals. Let's go to cupcakes. Oh, okay. Hang on.
Untangle yourself. I'm just trying to.
Good afternoon, everybody. I have got help this afternoon, which could be a little bit interesting. Please, if you can't hear anything, let me know. I just hope that I've done everything right that I need to do right today. I see Honey and George have logged in. Good to see you. I'm not seeing a connection from YouTube, which always worries me. So if you can hear me, if you could just put a note there to say that you can hear me. Okay, there, I see the connection to YouTube. So that's looking good. Please excuse the howls and screams that happened. Somebody is rather tired and suddenly is very clingy. So we have her. What I have done is I have pre-recorded the video so that we will hopefully have the video without too many squawks. And I just need to find it before Matilda pulls the cable out my ears. Matilda, sit up a little bit so everybody can see you. Yeah, that's Matilda Jane, the most important person in the universe. All right. So yes, welcome everybody, and I'm just going to find that video, and all going well, put it up. Share screen. There we go. Zechariah chapter 7. There we go. Our study today is Zechariah chapter 7. We're going to do the whole chapter. Now, Zechariah chapter 7 and 8 are two chapters containing sort of like sermons of Zechariah's. People think that maybe they're actually anthologies, collections of sermons, collections of snippets that Zechariah spoke about. But they've been put together, whether he said them all at the same time or at different times, they've been put together to make a unit. And these chapters 7 and 8, coming in the middle of the book of Zechariah, are kind of a pivotal point. We've had the visions, the dreams of Zechariah at the beginning. We have now these two chapters of sermons, really, of teachings, of lessons for the people. So today, as we do Zechariah chapter 7, we're going to go through them. I am going to refer to a few other passages in the Old Testament, but I'm just going to read a few verses and then we'll go back and forwards. So, verse 1. In the 4th year of King Darius, the word of the Lord came to Zechariah on the 4th day of the 9th month, the month of Kislev. All right, so we notice there that it's the 4th year of Darius. The visions and dreams happened in the 2nd year of Darius, and the temple was finished being built in the 6th year of Darius. The people of Bethel had sent Sherazar and Regamelech together with their men to entreat the Lord by asking the priests of the house of the Lord Almighty and the prophets, should I mourn and fast in the 5th month, as I have done so for many years? And so this is the question. One wonders if they are trying to get out of fasting, or what is the motivation for the question. It's interesting that the question comes in the 9th month and they're talking about fasting in the 5th month, which would already have passed or be sometime in the future. And the inclination is to think that they're lazy and they don't want to fast. But the reality is that these fasts were not the fasts of Exodus, but these were fasts that were due to the events that caused the exile. And so it's helpful to actually go back to 2 Kings chapter 25, which is where we're going to go now. 2 Kings chapter 25, and we read verses 8 to 10. Firstly, thinking about the fast in the 5th month. 25 verses 8 to 10. On the 7th day of the 5th month, in the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, Nebuzaradan, commander of the imperial guard, an official of the king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem. He set fire to the temple of the Lord, the royal palace, and all the houses of Jerusalem, every important building he burnt down. And so in the fall of Jerusalem, as we know in 586 BC, the 5th month was the month in which the temple, Solomon's temple, was burnt down. And so for the 70 years that they were in Babylon, they remembered the 5th month as being the month when the temple was burnt down. And that was the point of the fast and the remembrance. We can read the same story in Jeremiah chapter 52 from verse 12. Now, if we go a little bit further on in chapter 25, we go to verse 22, we see what happens, the reason for the fast in the 7th month. Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, appointed Gedaliah, son of Ahikam, the son of Shaphan, to be over the people he had left behind in Judah. When all the army officers and their men heard that the king of Babylon had appointed Gedaliah as governor, they came to Gedaliah at Mizpah. Ishmael son of Nethaniah, Johanan son of Kareah, Seraiah son of Tanhumeth, the Nepophathite, Jaazaniah the son of the Maacathite, and their men. Gedaliah took an oath to reassure them and their men. Do not be afraid of the Babylonians, he said. Settle down in the land and serve the king of Babylon, and it will go well with you. In the 7th month, however, Ishmael, son of Nethaniah, the son of Elishama, who was of royal blood, came with 10 men and assassinated Gedaliah and also the men of Judah and the Babylonians who were with him at Mizpah. And so the fast of the 7th month was to commemorate the killing of the Babylonian appointed governor in Judah. So it's actually a very legitimate question. The temple is being rebuilt. Do we need to continue to mourn the burning of the temple in Solomon's temple? Do we now have a new governor? We know that there's Zerubbabel. Do we need to continue to mourn the assassination of the governor in the 7th month? Then Zechariah doesn't really give a very straightforward answer here in chapter 7. We do get an answer in chapter 8, as we'll see just now. But in chapter 7, he rather goes on to say this. We're going to read the next few verses. Then the word of the Lord Almighty came to me. Ask all the people of the land and the priests, when you fasted and mourned in the 5th and 7th months for the past 70 years, was it really for me that you fasted? And when you were eating and drinking, were you not just feasting for yourselves? Are these not the words the Lord proclaimed through the earlier prophets, when Jerusalem and its surrounding towns were at rest and prosperous, and the Negev and the western foothills were settled? And so God comes back to the people and says, yeah, what is the meaning of this fast anyway? Were you really taking it seriously? And as far as I understand, the point is that while the fast did commemorate the burning of the temple and the assassination of Gedaliah, the reason that God punished them and sent them into exile was because they had deserted his ways. And that was the root cause. Moses had told the people that if you do not obey the law, you've been given the 10 Commandments, they've been given the expanded law. If you do not obey the law, you will be scattered amongst the surrounding nations. And so what God is saying to them is that this feast and this fasting and so on is actually not to do with those particular events, but it's to do with the frame of mind and the sort of people that the Israelites chose to be at that time. And so he says, we're not commemorating only the burning of the temple. We are remembering the way that the Israelite people left God. And has that come right? Because so he's saying, well, don't worry about the temple. Worry about the cause of why this whole thing happened in the first place. And if you can get that right, then we can move on. And so he says that the prophets had spoken to the people. They spoke to them when they were prosperous and doing well. And he goes on to explain what it was that he said. Verse 8. And the word of the Lord came again to Zechariah. This is what the Lord Almighty says. Administer true justice. Show mercy and compassion to one another. Do not oppress the widow or the fatherless, the alien or the poor. In your hearts, do not think evil of each other. And so here, God is saying to them what He really wants for them. It's not so much fasting, it's not so much that they should abstain from food or that they should cry and that they should weep, but that He wants true justice. And I'm sure that many of us reading this, it echoed Micah chapter 6, verse 8. Let me just read it, though I'm sure that we all know it well. If I can just find where Micah's gone in my Bible. There we go. Micah chapter 6, verse 8. He has showed you, O man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. And then also it echoes back to Isaiah chapter 58. And you could probably read the whole of chapter 58, but let's just say from verse 5. Is this the kind of fast I have chosen? Only a day for a man to humble himself? Is it only for bowing one's head like a reed, and for lying on sackcloth and ashes? Is that what you call a fast, a day acceptable to the Lord? Is not this the kind of fasting I have chosen? To loose the chains of injustice, and untie the cords of the yoke, to set the oppressed free, and break every yoke. And so God is saying to them, it's not actually about fasting, it's actually about justice, mercy, and compassion. And it's such a deeply significant thing that we gloss over it because we're used to it, that God's justice is linked to mercy and compassion. In many, many societies, there's a concept of a different law for the wealthy, for the elite, to those that are on the ground, the general population. In fact, I was reminded this week that the word privilege comes from the word for private law. And so privileged people would have a different law to the others. And it's a sort of thing that if you think of a sort of old British feudal system, where if a lord was to kill a peasant, well, that's okay, you know. If a peasant was to kill another peasant, well, hey, hang on, we can't have people doing that. If a peasant was to kill a lord, whoa, that would be major disaster. And so it's incredibly unjust. And yet you can make a system like that and obey the laws just because there are two separate laws, one for the elite and one for the poor. And this kind of thing is repeated in society from time to time. And what God is saying to the people is love justice, but my justice is the one that is rooted in mercy and compassion. You need to understand the marginalized, those people that are on the edges and are overlooked or are held to have to listen to the common law rather than the law of the elite who get away with all sorts of things. And so God is saying, when you look at this concept of justice, make sure that it is my justice, which is to do with mercy and compassion, rather than any sort of inequality or self-entitlement or such on. And so there's very strong words that God says to the people and says, this is what matters. Temples and burnings and whatever, yeah, that's something else. This is what matters. And then just to carry on reading with what happens, we all know the Israelites of old, but verse 11, but they refused to pay attention. Stubbornly, they turned their backs and stopped up their ears. They made their hearts as hard as flint and would not listen to the law or to the words that the Lord Almighty had sent by his Spirit through the earlier prophets. So the Lord Almighty was very angry. So that was the response of the people. And clearly the warning is here to say, you're in the same position. I'm giving you the same message. You want me to be here with you, but I'm saying stop hardening your hearts. Listen to what the Spirit is saying through the prophets. And then it explains the judgment from verse 13. When I called, they did not listen. So when they called, I would not listen, says the Lord Almighty. I scattered them with a whirlwind among all the nations where they were strangers. The land was left so desolate behind them that no one could come or go. This is how they made the pleasant land desolate. A reminder again that while it may be God that allowed all of this to happen, the cause of it was the people's sin and the people's neglect of justice, of the Ten Commandments, of listening to God and to taking Him seriously. And so, yeah, this chapter of Zechariah is actually quite harsh. But while it seems harsh, it gives the solution. It's not saying that God is permanently angry and nothing must come right and you must now fast every month of the year or whatever. He's saying, let's listen, let's think about this. And let me say, yes, we can move forward. I need you just to act justly. And just to read chapter 8, verse 19, this is where Zechariah does answer the question. This is what the Lord Almighty says. The fasts of the 4th, 5th, 7th, and 10th months will become joyful and glad occasions and happy festivals for Judah. Therefore, love, truth, and peace. And this is back to me live. Matilda is now playing happily with her uncle. There we go. Hopefully that lasts for a bit longer. Darren says hello. And glad to see Stella online, Angela and Ivan. Hello, Agnes. Great to have you with us. And so now what we are going to do, having listened to the study part, we're going to switch to Zoom and we will have some discussion there. Those that aren't on Zoom are welcome to watch for the recording to pop up here on the YouTube channel so that you will be able to see in a few minutes' time the Zoom discussion as well. So thank you for joining us and thank you for those who watch the video later. May God bless you.